Peace, human families of the planet Earth. You now tuned in live to Super Heru Radio. I'm your host, Aseer the Duke of Tears, along with my co-host, Selena, the Empress of 10,000 Years, my brother, Saga Hassan, all of the cosmic ancestors, celestial ancestors coming in. We want to definitely welcome them in so they could go out and do the great work. The great work, for those people that don't know, is doing whatever you got to do to take the devil off the planet. That's the only work that truly exists in terms of physical labor, you know what I mean, that we be having to deal with. But we definitely want to give love and light condolences to anybody who lost anybody within the last time we spoke. And we definitely want to give condolences and praises to anybody who may be on their way out. As we close down the end of the so-called fiscal new year, we in the know that our new year don't come until March 22nd. However, we live in a society in which everybody can celebrate what they want to celebrate, how they want to celebrate it. So those people that's going out there tomorrow and celebrate the fiscal new year, we definitely want to wish them safe travels and as well as being safe, period, because we know how it is. When it comes down to the end of a cycle, the birth of a new one. Also, we definitely want to give thanks and praise to any and all people who are out there who respect the works that the ancestors have done, you know what I mean, both wrong or right, because we today are the sum product of both the ancestors that did the right thing and both the ancestors that did the wrong. So we are the culmination of both in that we have the ability to learn from both and make the best discerning decision to allow us to reach the undiscovered country that we would all refer to as freedom. So, like I said, it's a lot of stuff going on. Of course, you know, these people with their idiosyncrasies and their little governmental shutdowns and all this other thing, you're going to get ready to go through another one in a couple of days. So look into that. Look for that to come. And for them to start bitching about that again, because, again, they have no money. When I say they, I'm talking about the United States government. I'm not talking about the so-called Fortune 500 of those people who basically run the government, which are multinational corporations. A multinational corporation is a corporation that receives free trade subsidies for its goods and services that it provides to any given community in the world. The problem with that is corporations are not human beings. Therefore, corporations cannot insure themselves. Therefore, insurance on a statutory level represents bonds. A great and wise brother that I know personally sent me a email to forward. I wanted to read it so everybody understands the position that they put the United States and the people in the country in. Also, if anybody wants to call in this week, you can do so at 347-637-1184, the call-in number. Okay, here it is. A very knowledgeable, noble Moor who's put in a lot of great work for the people that they don't even realize yet. You know what I mean? But it will so manifest, inshallah. He basically wrote that the Arkansas state, county, municipal, and school public officials don't even have a fiat bond. Again, this is just in Arkansas, but this is all over the country. This ain't just limited to this brother's territory, okay? This is all over the country they're pulling this now, okay? Remember a couple of years ago we talked about how the United States was listed as a battleground by the Congress. And then subsequently after that, right around that time, Bill Clinton put out this thing that basically revealed the fact that the United States citizens are listed as human capital under the corporate index. Basically meaning that the United States formally became a corporation in which so it listed its assets as capital, C-A-P-I-T-A-L. Excuse me, C-A-P as well as C-A-P-I-T-A-L. where we get the capital gains tax. So you see, they're talking about something totally different than a lot of people think they're talking about. But regardless, that's neither here nor there. What is there is the fact that all of these state municipalities that are functioning as quasi-representatives of some sort of law enforcement or some sort of state legislature or some sort of state bureaucracy are functioning without any backing from anything lawful or legal. Now, we said it, but this is actually now put into practice. But I digress. Let me go on with the brother said. Fiat bond. I already knew that they were not bonded in gold and silver as their oaths require them to be. If you need to check into that, look into the United States Constitution. And basically saying that all monies and coin monies of everything has to be printed, minted, and coined by Congress. And that the only lawful money is species of gold and silver. That's it. That's the only lawful money in the United States of America, a.k.a. the American National or the American Republic, not the United States. So here go the wild shit. The wild shit is, but I did not know this, that they are self-bonded. Corporations cannot bond themselves because corporations are not living beings. The same way a corporation cannot have citizens is the same way it cannot bond itself. Therefore, i.e., the self-bonded, i.e., United States or state of municipal corporations cannot bond themselves for fraud or injurious acts that they may commit, meaning that when the police beat somebody to death, they are not bonded by the state to do that. They have no political backing, no financial backing to pay for whatever happens to this person should the result come back that the police was in error. You understand? So they're committing fraud, straight up fraud. Anybody that's become a police, things like that, you are joining up with a fraudulent situation for money, which means that you're not just joining the shit to get a job, because you could do anything. What this is basically saying is that for fraud or injurious acts that they may commit, for there must be a neutral third party between them and the obligee. That's why when something goes down, it is very maladapted for you to go to the same precinct that violates you, right, to list a report and open an investigation. That's a conflict of interest right there. What you're supposed to be able to do is refer them to IA. You're supposed to refer them to them or somebody else. There has to be an outside party to do the investigation. Or else you're going to wind up with one of them Warren Commission investigations where, the fix is in from the jump because all these niggas play golf together. This is known as the surety. There has to be a surety in anything the United States corporation do because they cannot pay their debts. Didn't their credit report get downgraded by Standard & Poor, right, for not paying their bills, for defaulting on all these liens the Noble Moors is putting on them as well as everybody else? There's sureties for these public official bonds. So that means then that they don't even have a surety. What they are doing, let me go on. This is known as the surety. The people are the obligee according to the state and the federal constitutions. And the people are now the sureties for these public officials' bonds by the way of the taxes being collected, which is pure fraud. Since the state is operating as a corporation, they cannot do this, for it is a breach of the trust, the people's trust. If they do not have a surety, then they are not bonded. And this also amounts to insider trading, which is a felony offense according to the Securities Exchange Commission. This is why I'll be telling more is a lot of these niggas you need to start reporting that be trying to obfuscate and not listen to your briefs and your motions. You need to put them on notice to the Securities Exchange Commission. The Securities and Exchange Commission is dealing with the sureties of the securities. And if there is no surety, then that means that these people are creating and doing business under a fictitious name that is not lawfully filed or bonded or backed by anything, specifically in gold and silver. Then the whole corporation is moot. Supposed to be laying down in your bag. Didn't I tell you that? under the cover. So essentially, like I said, what this basically amounts to is the fact that everything that they have been doing, not only are they not lawful or legal in it, they don't even have any remedy to pay people like they used to. So what this means is that judges and lawyers and these people, they're basically bonding themselves. They're basically saying, oh, I'm a lawyer, so I'm bonded. So when we lock this dude up, we're going to use his name. We're going to use him as the surety in the case. How are you going to create a surety after the instrument is created? That's like you signing for a house and don't have nobody to sign for it with you as an underwriter. So what you do is you say, well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to list this person's name here, and once I speak to them, they're going to be okay with it. They're going to be okay with them being an underwriter on my house. You can't do that. You got to get express written consent from the door, or else it's fraud. Bonding equals no bond. You understand? Self-bonding means that there is no bond. And lawful money, gold or silver, is the only thing that they're supposed to use to pay people. So if anybody is receiving a check that works for the United States government, that means that that check is not coming from your government. That check is coming from a foreign government. I don't give a damn if it say the United States or the United States of America. It don't matter. If you ain't getting paid in a gold or silver certificate, then that means then that you're not being paid by the people that you think you're employed by. You're employed by an illegal corporation that's functioning as a quasi-corporation, but has no means of assuring, or bonding itself. Therefore, it is a rogue corporation that is practicing perpetual fraud on an international basis. Because this is international when we're dealing with species of payment and property like that. Right? So the lawful money of gold and silver is the only thing they're supposed to use to pay people, is what the brother said. If they injure one of us, you got to read Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution for the United States of America. They can't pay the people if they cause an injury, for they do not have the money to pay the people. I cannot open up a business and use your information as the basis of the collateral for the business. That's illegal. That's insider trading. That's using personal information. That's what they're doing on Facebook with all these images. They're just doing that with images, though. People don't think it's the same thing you create. I don't give a damn how many pictures you post up on Facebook. Anytime you see that picture post up on anybody else, especially if it's a corporation on any site, you have an agreement with Facebook to do that. And if you don't want to have that aspect, I'm saying that they can own your pictures, what you do is you just do a post on Facebook. Let them know this is a direct thing to Facebook, whoever. All of these pictures belong to me. I don't give a damn what the hidden cost or hidden this and that says about it. These pictures belong to me, and if I find them anywhere else, you're going to get sued. That's public notice. That's what I'm doing right now with Selena. Her image, this image of her doing a posture and yoga is so popular, right? Now people shared it, and it wound up on the David Beckham website. David Beckham ain't never hollered at her. So that's what I mean. Being that they have no obligation and there is no surety, the United States itself is the surety. That is now the surety. But they don't want to act as that. According to the Constitution, we the people can only be grantors and beneficiaries, while the public officials are the trustees. And any injuries that they do, right, that they do pay with fiat money out to an injured party are recouped in the form of taxes because the people are the surety. Suretyship must be on an individual and voluntary basis. That's the law. They can't just turn you into a surety. meaning they can't just assume jurisdiction over you because you walking down the street and you look like a Negro. Regardless to whether you are or not, they supposed to ask. That's why they ask. That's why they're supposed to ask for certain identification. And whatever you promote and give them first is what they got to deal with you at. So if they ask for some sort of identification, evidence of citizenship is proven by any piece of identification with your signature on it. You don't even need your picture on it. But these dudes want to act like they got the right to do that and roll up on you, ask you for this and that, force you to do business with them, and then make it like you did something wrong because you don't have the ID that they like. And so they create fictitious charges, resisting arrest. Anything other than okay is resisting arrest to them. You could say okay, and they still charge you for that. Got to become a police and all of that. You got to understand, these are people who want to do that. That whole, it's just a job, I'm just doing my job. Nah, man. Now when these police is killing people 10 at a time, what they doing? See more images of the police killing people than you see soldiers, images of soldiers shooting people in Iraq or Afghanistan and all that. What's up with that? And they killing them niggas over there, 100, 1,500 every month. But they ain't showing you that because they learned from Vietnam. Vietnam War stopped because every day you were seeing people blowed up. You seeing babies blowed up with their heads and skulls fractured, all types of shit every day. See United States soldiers walking in there looking like barbarians with flamethrowers, burning down forests and shit. Like, they even had it on tape. They had OJ on tape. They had Rodney King on tape. They done made movies where they showing you that the police just rolling up, telling brothers to sit down on the curb and then shooting them in the head. They're making movies about that. You understand? Here's on that note though. Here's another funny thing. They just instituted this thing in New York where pigs got to start wearing cameras on they persons now. And they said that the amount of police brutality since they've been doing it within the past month has dropped significantly. The amount of complaints against police and all that shit has dropped significantly. This ain't saying they ain't doing it. It's harder and harder now. It's going to be harder and harder for these people to just start killing niggas and brutalizing them the way they've been doing once they institute this thing nationwide now where the pigs got to record themselves. It's going to be hard to lose that tape. See? But don't think they won't try. You know what I'm saying? Because this is still the United States. But what I'm telling you, this is what shoots down, that whole sovereignty and all that sovereign citizenship. This is what blows that shit out the water. It is based on surety. So the United States, like I said, is a surety to the people, not the other way around. The surety has what's called the right of subrogation. See what I'm saying? So unless somebody wrote you a letter and asked you, hey, can you be a surety for our country? Unless they called you and told you that, then they got you under a whole nother thing. They got you paying taxes. They got you doing everything that they are supposed to be doing. And when I say they, I'm talking about the descendants of European Americans. Why? Because America, or the Americans are the original copper-colored races that existed up and down North, Central, and South America prior to the European colony. But in modern times, it refers to those people of European descent, which means that the Europeans the Europeans basically, or the people we refer to Europeans, basically switched roles. They pulled an emancipation Remember, the word emancipate comes from the Latin emancipatio, which does not mean to free. It means to transfer ownership. Just as subrogation means the substitution of one person in the place of another with the reference to a lawful claim, demand, or right, so that he or she who is substituted succeeds to the rights of the other in relationship to the debt or the claim and its rights, remedies, or securities. So there's two types of subrogation. There's legal subrogation and there's conventional. Legal subrogation arises based on the operation of law, whereas conventional subrogation is the result of a contract. Guess which one these niggas is under? If you said the latter, B, then ding, 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 you right. They're under conventional subrogation because their shit is coming out of a contract, whereas we are coming out of the an operation of law, which means resolution or execution. Therefore, these people have been running a game on the American people so big that it means that most people that are functioning with them in their little society, you had to be or inherently down with it, because this is what has kept them in power. They have taken the role of the people who founded the country, and they know that they didn't. Everything they did to inspire and set this so-called United States corporation off the ground was based on lies and blood. All of the lofty ideals that they want to ascribe to Jefferson and the rest of these hypocrites or whatever have nothing to do with the original tenets of how the country was formed. It has nothing to do with it. American history, as we know it, coming from a European perspective, is a total fiction, filled with red herrings and blinds and false doors and things that have no basis in rational thought or sense. So whenever an original man or woman comes to bring clarity to this stuff, there can be hiccups due to the amount of disinformation and omitted information that can actually lay a lot of these controversies to rest. But so much stuff is buried within the Library of Congress, is buried within the Smithsonian, is buried in all of these different repositories of the country that preceded the United States. They've given us a view of this place that was basically like, it was wild, like there was no structure, there was no government, there was no nothing. That's how they really want to make it feel. They want to make it feel like every melanated person that you see on this continent or in any aspect of North Central South America, any being, they want us to believe that if you are melanated somehow, then your ancestors were never here, that you have no place here, that everybody or anything of substance or whatever that you have or could have comes from somewhere else. But then when you go over there, being born here, when you go over there, there is a feeling probably of recognition, hopefully, for some. But those of us who understand, historically speaking, no matter how at home you feel there, that's not the place where you was born. We are a disparate people. And we are a people that have been mixed, diluted, and tampered with. So a lot of times, a lot of the hate and trauma that we have for feeling abandoned by the ancestors and by people that have come before us. People that come before us, it almost seems like there's been a backlash now where it's now in vogue to, like, bang on dead people, people that's not here, or people who, if they were here, nobody would be saying shit. You know what I'm saying? Anything I'm going to say about any boule or whatever they were or whatever they did in life is confirmed by the actions in which they did, right? That's what I'm banging on. However, I also try to keep the scale balanced in saying that regardless to what was happening behind the scene with these people still inspired thousands upon thousands of so-called black people to at least get literate, at least get socially involved in something. And that has to account for something. So like I said, just because I know Christianity is insane don't mean I'm going to just bang on Isa. He ain't make that shit up. He ain't tell people to make him a religion after that. The prophet never said that he is your God. The prophet said he is a prophet of Allah and said that he is one of his sons, as we all are. Only person I know who said he was God like that was Fard, and that's what people said of him. And I got evidence to the fact that in the 30s, people was literally sacrificing, killing black. They had black people killing people as a sacrifice to him. I ain't never heard that about the prophet. People want to talk to me about how this and that he was. I don't never see nobody pulling out no financial records talking about how he took all of this money and did this and that. I read the opposite. I read how other Moors were setting that stuff up around him, and then when he went and banged on him, then it became a problem. And then it just so happens that the rumors that starts getting spread is coming from these same people he had to bang on and excommunicate. I don't know nobody that ever started a movement by themselves other than Allah. Nobody. Like just one day just by themselves, and then the next day they got over 50 million followers or whatever. I ain't never seen that. What I see is other people going out and putting in work and trying to convince other people that this is the way, or whatever the way is the way. And that's what they do. We are the only people that deject and destroy whatever movement that we're so sick and so insane that we're the only people that would deject and try to destroy our own movements before we actually really pop them off the ground and insult ones that have actually had an indelible and positive relationship with the United States up until the modern history, or modern times. Sorry, I had to deal with the baby. So that's kind of what it boils down to, brothers and sisters. We're dealing with people who are functioning as a country, but they're not a country. They're a corporation. So now that they've shown you that they're a corporation, they're now telling you that they don't even have the ability to hold you down in terms of the things that they're doing to you socially, economically, geopolitically, statutorily, or administratively. They are making you the surety of your own arrest. So basically, you are paying them to arrest you. when they arrest you. That's how they flip it. You know what I'm saying? They are making you now the one that has to be adjudicated upon. Which is sick. It's sick. There's no public trust and no bread for them to bring this out. Individual. See, the thing about they have a wax museum over there, and they got a wax museum of Noble. They got a wax statue of Noble Jew Ali over there. Everybody's going to revere him except over here, because they don't want you to have anybody that you can look to over here that actually left something for everybody. And by left, I mean basic instructions for you to be able to function and be seen internationally as a functioning government. You cannot tell me that there is not was not an international connection or international correspondence and recognition of Moorish Science Temple when the Moorish Science Temple raised the flag of the Moroccan Empire over here in North Africa during a time that the Kingdom of Morocco was under subjugation of the French between 1912 and 1955. We set up the Moorish Science Temple was set up of America was set up in 1913. The year after. So the year after they fell to the subjugation over there due to the excess and the and the caught upness of the then Sultan at that time, who put himself in that capitulatory agreement at the Convention of Madrid in 1885 or whatever, that then led to the Trademark Act between the Kingdom of Morocco and France, by which Britain claimed treaty benefits from that, and through that the United States did. So if it was not an international thing and we were not who would we say we were, then it was at that time in 1928 when that flag was raised at that thing, that could have been seen as an act of sedition by the then government of the state at that time, as well as the federal government, which means the next day or that day the convention would have been shut down and everybody would have been arrested as being enemy combatants to the United States, but they could not do that. Which again shows and proves that the Moorish Science Temple of America is an international organization and ecclesiastical government based upon its national character and its consecration of American or Moorish American missionaries. It's just what it is. But people don't talk about that aspect of history. And we talk about Oscar the Priest and these other people that they was helping putting on and getting in power in the state government in Chicago, and how that was somehow seen as subversive, or like these people being forced to do that. Pictures I've seen with these dudes, they don't look forced at all. They look like they chilling. I don't know if you've noticed it, but I've noticed a heavy thing where people who are not claiming Moorish heritage or nationality or whatever seem to be the ones banging on it the most. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not into I'm not particularly into basketball, for instance. But I'm not gonna, go in and try to make it seem like anybody that is into basketball is somehow, crazy or whack or whatever. Like that would be crazy. Like I said, just because niggas done defiled Jesus' name, that don't have nothing to do with Isa or Yehoshua or Emmanuel or any of the other attributes given to an archetype of Allah that we are manifesting as now. He was born of a single mother. We was born in single mothers. He was born in the belly of the beast, in the manger, where the beast dwelled. We grew up in that. That's called a ghetto, right? People in the government was hating on him, was trying to shut him down. That sounds familiar, right? He basically chatted down Rome and declared his nationality, right? That's what we do, right? He was the heir to the throne of Nabatea through his father-in-law, John the Baptist, who was the father of Mary Magdalene. They both have a daughter. Magdalene and Isa have a daughter. Call that daughter Ruth, the Moabite. So, brothers and sisters, that means when you take on the ill and the bait, you are basically saying that, again, you are the Grail. You are the Temple Maw, or what is now known as the True Templar. You're the one that's taking on the noble title of the house that was beset for you that has many mansions, as it is in heaven. Therefore, you cannot be charged to be who you are. So when they do that, that is man, that is mankind trying to exact a double right of which they do not have the right to do. Yet, because they have force of arms, sometimes we have to capitulate and play the sheep, you know what I'm saying, to be the wolf. And so that's what we say when we talk about how many circumstances have arisen where people who are claiming themselves to be Moors and things like that get arrested for doing, heinous things like trying to squat on houses or adverse property and things like that. Like, you don't have to do none of that. The aliens, that was created for the aliens to be able to reside in places that was under jurisdiction of the original people. Yet there is no nation in the world called Aboriginal, other than the Aboriginal nation out of Australia, who have their own passports and everything. But to make bread, what they do is they sell those passports to Europeans and stuff like that that's on the run. Like your man who set up the WikiLeaks shit. He got one of their passports to get out the country because his passport was frozen. So they sold him one and got some bread off that. So that's what they do. But there is no, let's say, nation that says the Aboriginal, republic of this or that. Like, that don't exist. Context of international framework and government right now. When you read the prophet's work, he don't use words like, or works from the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Moorish Divine National Movement. We don't use words like free white person and all of that. Even though that do apply to us in certain contexts and stuff, we don't really need to even rock with shit like that. When you hear people using stuff like that, putting that in terms of context and paperwork and stuff, you ain't really got to go that deep, man. It's not about you redefining who you are. It's about you accepting who you are and allowing all of the material assets of that reflect that. Based on the fact that you are a consecrated missionary of an ecclesiastical government that was founded as a religious body politic and corporate, that reorganized itself from a civic organization to a religious corporate organization that dwells its power from the Quran with a K, of Muhammad with an O. Power denotes deed and authority. Therefore, based on the statutes of when this was founded, those are the statutes by which it still resides. Meaning you, if you are going to court for challenging them on a law that they doing, right, that they trying to flip on you, and you in active litigation on that law, and then midway through they want to flip the law, right? into some other shit, right? Then they want to use that flip law in the case that was already started under the time when that law was in dispute. They can't do that. I don't give legal advice. I'm talking to you about lawful action. Because I'm not a barrister. I'm not barred from talking about anything prior to 1938. That's why they're barred. They don't want to deal with nothing prior to them reorganizing everything. That's why they had to go through World War II. The same thing they did during the War of 1812, coming in, blowing up the place with all the records and reorganizing and rezoning and remapping everything, and then putting everybody under these subjugated jurisdictions that have nothing to do with their original state, unless those people that they're doing it to declare who and what they are prior to the change of or after. So at the time in 1933, HJR 75, again, was a federally recognized statute petition that was resolved and adopted. Today, they want to act like that's not in effect because of this. Yeah. Hold on, y'all. Yeah, it becomes a situation where they don't have a particular mode to function other than through a statutory bureaucracy that they've created based upon financial favors from corporations that give the corporations more life. Therefore, they're trying to turn the corporations into the trustors. See what I'm saying? Through corporate financial means, not through legal means. And then the corporate tries to then change the legislation of the states to turn them more inorganic. People think that that's how government works, so that's how it's supposed to work, and it doesn't. That's not government. That's business. Government is not business. Government is the unilateral function under love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, and equality that everybody lives by for the prosperous nature of everybody. No money in this train. Hold on. Yeah, so that's what's up, man. You know what I mean? That's why they got to keep reorganizing everything and all of that, because financially it's not just the fact that they're a corporation. We know all of that. It's not just the whole straw man, but the fact that they even created straw man, that whole action was illegal because they was the straw man. You understand? They don't exist. They don't come from nowhere. They don't have a history. The history that they got is based upon them breeding into our families and then bleaching them out. That's where their history comes from. That's not me trying to be racist or try to make people feel bad, but this is what happened. Y'all came up. And the only country in Europe that was trying to hold them at bay and be somewhat down with the real shit was the Holy Roman Empire, believe it or not. People with Moors. Especially under the Hanoverian dynasty, where you had two Moors, Mustafa and Muhammad, who were the visors of the king. They was concierge, and they dealt with everything. They dressed him, they picked his clothes, to whatever, because he didn't speak. He was ruling the British throne, but he didn't speak English. He only spoke German and French. So anybody who wanted to talk to him had to talk to them, and then they talked to him, and then vice versa. So it became a situation where they didn't know business and none of that was done. So anybody that wanted to court him, they had to, Mustafa and Muhammad had to choose the shorties. The term court, you understand? When you court somebody, or the king's court, Moors don't even understand what that is. The court really deals based on the law, really comes from the law of attraction. You understand? The court in ancient times, right, when people didn't even have like real, what we consider legislative or administrative capabilities in the way that we understand them today, there was still an open forum where people would go and settle whatever instances and differences, whether it be in front of a bonfire or a little hamlet square or a village square or a big, somewhat metropolitan city complex. There was always some place that people would go to build on the differences or to meet those who were acting as the leaders of the time period. But in the primordial sense, the courting of the king, the court was where the nobles and queens and princesses would be able to build and get audience with the king and maybe ensure a political marriage. So in between the king trying to get with whatever shorty was around, the baron or the earl or the whatever would come to him, who was usually his cousin or his brother or whatever, would come to him and give up whatever was the tribute. You see what I'm saying? That's why a lot of times you'll see these movies where these kings in this whole big court and everybody eating and all that, and that's where all of the intrigue is going on, because that's the time where the king is being the representing the merriment, the center of the merriment of the culture. Therefore, he's open to receiving audience from those people because, again, this is also a time for him to choose an heir through whatever female is around or presented to him. So at a lot of these courts, that's where a lot of these so-called Patagonia blonde women, these so-called Caucasian women, were brought up from some of these harems throughout the empire to marry some of these people in Europe because they had a preponderance for amalgamating. Now, it was their custom, but over here it wasn't like that. They wasn't over here like that. They didn't really have them over here like that. When they was, you're dealing with the wild ones that was like the Neanderthals that was up in the Appalachian Mountains, the Rockies and stuff like that, like the trolls, those type of people. But over the years, through domestication, I mean, think about it. At one time, house cats were the size of like panthers, you know. How'd they get that small? You know, they weren't always the size they are now. Same thing with dogs. Dogs were domesticated from dingoes and wolves, you know. Jackals. You know how big a jackal is? Like, it's just real talk. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with us. So imagine us now as people. You dig? It's a whole nother realm. That's why in society we don't understand how sun worship is the engine that fuels the patriarchal mind that allows it to push boundaries by negating aspects of its feminine nature. So it's extreme. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's become extreme where if you are based on the modern, again, the word modern definition of modern male appearance, if you as a male like take care of yourself, then there's a part of you that's effeminated. It can't just be that your mother or your father taught you that when you were younger as a man you're supposed to, you know, have a certain appearance or whatever. It can't be that now. Now it has to be that you're gay. Because that is what they have made it where that's what people feel they got to do to get on. They got to be that. They got to create a myth and then live in that myth and then exploit themselves in that myth to the point that the myth is actually them or they are actually the myth. Either way, it's a fiction. And anything that is a fiction created in the United States can own. So a Negro is a fiction. An African is a fiction because Africans is only African when they come here. When they in Africa, they Senegalese or Nigerian or South African or Mauritanian or Kenyan or Congolese or something else. They only get African when they get off the plane here. So again, what that looked to me like is a lot of people is in that we over here are fooling ourselves with. You like Kwanzaa. I mean, it's great as a instrument to teach spiritualization to children, but it's basically the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, and equality. So why not just show them that? Without the whole CIA influence through this dude Karenga, who was a part of the Gentlemen's Incorporated CIA-created antithesis to the Black Panthers. Cape Moore science, man. The Moore put me on that the actual Constitution that was written by the for the Crips came from the Moore. A Moore helped create that. So as a Moore, when I see the Crips and the Bloods or whatever, I'm looking at the RNA and the DNA. You know what I mean? The RNA being blue and the DNA being red in that sense. Coming together to make green. Or violet. This insistence upon you not having your own identity is an affliction that is now being presented to you by people that look like you. The way I be seeing people go in, man, it'd be like they'd rather you could be anything else but a Moore. You know? So that should tell you something in itself. You dig? So many people against it, but these are the people that's talking the most about it, that's not with it. So whenever stuff go down like that, that's when Shakespeare, in Twelfth Night, where he said, "Me thinkst thou," in Taming of the Shrew, when he said, "Me thinkst thou dost protest too much." You know what I'm saying? There's a reason. You know, especially when, you know, this was like your man before. That's why it's like, you know, I urge anybody that wants to get into public speaking and things like that, as somebody who has done it for as many years as I've done it in the environment, you know what I mean? For as many years as, you know, we've done it, watching it evolve and become what it is, let's say by today, I would say that you should really understand what your platform is and what your direct message to the people is. Don't be nebulous. Don't be haphazard with how you disseminate what you disseminate, because people are banking their life on what you're saying. Some people, you don't even know. Most niggas don't care as long as they get their bread, which, again, is going to even itself out through our law. And all of these charlatans is going to get dealt with. And they know it. But the time has come for the people to stand up and decide what they want. And in them coming into this knowledge and then wanting to get it from as pure a concept as possible, the basic core tenets of Moore Science Temple of America or true Islam, our self-law and master, has never changed. Has never changed. That has never become an instance of where it's been so altered in terms of doctrine that people is like out here doing so much. Any variances in it in the modern era has basically come from patriot influenced doctrine that comes from people like David Wilcox, Winston Strout, Tex Mars, under a pseudonym. I forget what his pseudonym is in the patriot thing. What's the other one? The Montana militia people, all them type of people, all these type of patriot people who themselves being Freemasons and keepers of the same secret, which was given to them by Pipe, which is always keep God down. This is what has allowed them to maintain thus far. Yet, due to, again, the obvious ins now that they have no sureties behind what they're doing, they can't legally then sit there as judges or prosecutors or whatever. And when you bring that to their attention, well, who's the surety in the case? If the case is the people of the United States versus you, and on the document it says that you're even if you're a 14th Amendment citizen, on the document it says citizen of the United States, right? And a citizen of the United States is listed as people or persons within the jurisdiction of the United States. That means then that when it says the people versus blah, 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 the people and the court, blah, 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 versus you, how can you bring suit against yourself? How can you do that? If you are the people, or if you were the people to that point, how did you stop being the people for them to bring suit against you when you were the people up until the arrest? So does that mean that when you get arrested, you are no longer a person? If that's so, that makes sense under Title 28 and what they be doing under the whole beast of burden thing. You see what I'm saying? See how this shit is unraveling? When you really just get into the investigative nature of what the data says. I'm not saying what I want it to be. I'm not saying it's like this because I'm a Moor. I'm saying like this because this is what it is. This is what it is. Lawfully speaking, you cannot bring a suit against yourself. Yet, if that's the case, if you can't bring a suit against yourself, then what happened with Plaxico Burress when he shot himself? Who brought suit against him? The people. So how could he, if he shot himself, bring suit against himself? So he was one of the people in the jury that sentenced himself to jail for 3 years for shooting himself? No, it had to be something else, right? Or was it the gun? From what I understood, one report I read, and it was interesting, it wasn't too many, but one report I read said that he had the gun. He had a license for it. So now, as somebody who thinks lawfully and translates that legally, okay, so then that means he had to be charged for, he probably had a permit, but he didn't have a permit to carry. So, you see what I'm saying? You see, it just doesn't make sense. There's a double standard rule, because so-called blacks in the United States is being tried under the surety thing when they are really the original constituency of the country. But they can't tell the blacks that. They can't tell them that for the past 150 years we've been screwing y'all niggas out of y'all real presence here. All of the hangings, all of the mutilations, all of the killings, all of the land grab, all of the family breaking up, the whipping and the torture, that all of that was really to totally make you forget that you actually had anything to do with the building of this country in any capacity other than a slave, and to make you forget that you actually had family in other places. That's why they kidnapped you and forced you to make families with people that wasn't of your original nation. But it got so prevalent that they had to start making laws to protect Muslim slaves who had the right to pray to Allah and could read the Quran and all that. They had to separate them from the rest of the slaves. These are the niggas that worked in the house. These were the ones that was under ransom or whatever and was in the big house with the white man while he trying to get the knowledge, who descend from the original niggas that you see in pictures with George Washington, behind him with the red fez turban with the red feather. Them type of people. But we're supposed to believe that all these pictures of that guy in that picture is the same guy. Just like we're supposed to believe all of the pictures we see of Saint Maurice in Germany or in Europe are the same one icon. That there was one black guy in Europe and this one picture was interpreted in all of these different ways. BS, man. They showing you the royalty of your people. They showing you who's people in Europe. They showing you the fact that these people got here late, man. They came up by way of design between the years of 1776 and 1899. That was the height of them coming up. They wasn't on before then. All that stuff that was happening in the 1600s, that was stuff between us and using these people as father between us. And then based upon some of the promises that was given after, we then had to allow them to have certain things because we couldn't trust it with each other the same way they do it now. You can have a black store and bodega, and you can have a Arab bodega. You could be a black person, and they'll go to the Arab. Or you can have an Arab bodega on one corner, Arab bodega on directly across the street on the other corner. And the people on that side of the block only go to the one on their corner and vice versa. This is instilled behavior. It's a psychological gentrification on a generational basis that is not addressed. There was a book by Bell Hooks called The Selling of Black Pussy. And there was a narrative in it. Well, that was one of the, I forget the name of the book. It was a real exhaustive title from one of her essays, but it basically gets into the aspect of how the black woman was specifically feminized and engendered through the Sarah Bartman era, influenced the general psyche of what sexuality was. So black male sexuality and female sexuality was channeled through the female. Her specific parts were seen as the abject aspect of beauty in its most primal form without any grace, just raw animalistic desire. This is what helped engender the carnivorous attitude towards the woman, or black woman specifically, in Western and society. Why she was such a novelty, why Josephine Baker was so lauded on one level, but then when she tried to show intellectual superiority in the form of the spy shit she was doing for them, they started shitting on her. You know what I'm saying? Because they want to always look at you from a perspective of an animal rising to be a human, due to the perpetual programming that they have insisted to give themselves over the past 150, 175 years. That has nothing to do with the basic appetite of the general Western populace. But it is to say that they have no appetite other than destruction and abdication for people who are non-quote-unquote white. Hold on. So, like I said, the abject behavior has become a thing where women now feminism have championed the dissection of the female visage into a whole generation of selfies, a whole generation of explicit text messages and shit like that. Like this is the type of thing is going on. You know what I mean? You can't trust. It's to the point where you cannot trust your phone with certain information. You understand? That's the level of the game you at now. Your phone will just call people now. They wasn't doing that 10 years ago, 5 years ago. You understand? You can't trust certain information in your phone because you don't know. You could barely trust your computer. Remember, these things gained intelligence in Y2K. That was the trade-off. So there's a certain aspect of the mainframe that's aware of itself, that's working with them to help create all of these different things. I mean, come on, man. They still got niggas believing that they went to the moon, man. People should look at that movie, Gravity. That whole flick is basically about the incarnation of man from vessel to light, from light to vessel. You know what I'm saying? The whole movie was ritual. But it also showed you, there were certain things about it that was fake, like the fact that you didn't see that many satellites, but there was mass satellites crashing into one another, which is true. But you'll see what I mean when you see it. All of these are messages for us. So when they've seeded the clouds with so much strontium and barium, there's so much strontium and barium that they can now project images in the sky if they want now. And due to all the cell phone towers and all the shit out there, that allows them to now promote the auditory aspect of these things. So when and if they do, this is all under that whole blue beam thing that they was trying to put. So when and if that all goes down, fighting and the killing and stuff will be real. But most of the stuff you see going down won't be, in terms of, aliens eating people and all of that. Like, it's all a lie. And the only truth is the truth that you seek out. And that which feels the most true can and will be true to you, so long as it stands up to the scrutiny of investigation. I'm not so arrogant to think that one man or one society can move something towards a way where everybody should do it. Because every man that's done that in the world, for good or for worse, has turned out, or it's turned into something where people usually take that and pervert it and flip it into some other shit so they can get money. Because money is the overall ritual that keeps material life anchored to the ground, man. And no matter what it is, what form or how it was in whatever age or century it's produced, those people or those of us who participate in whatever civilization is dealing with that from a level of ever the governmental structure of the society or world we're in deals with it as. So if there is no money for the United States to do what it's doing, and they have to renegotiate the debt that they're paying internationally, and they have no actual situation, and they're now using us again as the legal surety to do this, as human capital. You understand why people want you to really get into the UCC shit and all of that? Because the last fiscal time year that I checked of 2013, they had made over $14 billion, or maybe more than that by now, off of filings off of that. But there is no such thing as a secured party creditor. There's a secured creditor, or creditor, but a secured party creditor. Being party to it means that you're a part of them, which was one of the flaws we realized in some of the initial stuff that we filed when we went through that hazing and something. But due to us dealing with the obligation to the Moors in it as a structure, it was sound, so they had to accept it as a document. So it wasn't relying strictly on their filing. So, like I said, instead of fortifying our own nation or agreeing on what our own government is, we have a bunch of people in all classes that want those ideas of what it should be. But in the meantime, the way that it is killing everybody. The only people that can absolve the United States of the original debt is the general and national government. And those are the so-called unconstituted 14th Amendment citizens that they disenfranchise, who can only come back into being true American citizens by going through the Moorish Science Temple of America, whether they know it or not, whether they accept it or not, because it's the only organization among so-called original Aboriginal black people or Tonkin indigenous black people that is registered as American nationals, American missionaries, consecrated American missionaries, which then give them extraterritorial rights, which fall in line with the paragraph in the book, Expatriation and Citizenship of the United States, that says that all American nationals or American missionaries in the Orient, the Maghreb, the farthest most west, which is the Morocco over here, that was brought forth and reestablished as a state when the flag was raised at the Grand Convention in 1928. So can't nobody dispute that, because it happened. You understand? It happened. Garvey ain't do that. Selassie ain't do that. Nobody else did that. And nobody in the United States government came to shut them down. Who shut them down? The Negroes that the United States paid off that was posing as Moors in the Adept Chamber, who was bought off by the 40 Gs, that they all agreed to set up and then set up quasi-movements and nations based upon what the Prophet did, which is where we get all of this so-called black liberation theology crap. You know what I'm saying? The whole thing. He's in the bed. Yeah, he's in the bed. He's in the bed. It's okay. I was saying it out. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So it's become almost a tradition to further humiliate and further get rid of the constituency of the original constituted republic.
I'm coming in right now, okay? Just walk through the door. I'm coming right now, babe.
And that's what happens. They become a national treasure, but instead of being treated as such, they get put into a box of being the most castigated and thrown away. Do most of the drudge work, if not all of it, up until the Mexicans got in. Everybody put in work, though. You know what I'm saying? The Moors and the Asiatics and the Asians built the railroad. You know what I'm saying? The mafia built the import-export industry and all of that. But the difference is these people, most of the so-called immigrants were descended from those people who were first employed to kill us and rout us out of our original lands. And then a lot of us started to no longer use our free national names because the eels and the bays were the ones that were hunted specifically because they were the original constituency of the government. And so the tribal name took the place of the free national and noble title, and they began to hide amongst the original tribal nations of which they were a part of. And as those tribal nations were now degenerated into warring factions based upon their use and misuse of slavery, the overall United States corporate government could outsource and bring balance into it by employing them as bounty hunters to basically extend the corporate jurisdiction as far as it could go, by which denationalizing and then naturalizing everybody along the lines of the Naturalization Act of 1886, not the original Naturalization Act of 1787, which calls for them to be, again, the trustees. So when we say a more perfect union, we're talking about a union of perfect morals. That was the purpose of we the people. Therefore, if I am the people, I cannot bring suit against myself unless I am disassociated from my true self and that which somebody else is treating me as steward of my own name instead of me owning it myself, thereby unifying me, myself, and I. The proverbial three kings that manifest or represent the pineal, hypothalamus, and pituitary, which also represents Series A, Series B, Series C, the pyramids of Giza, Menkaure, Khafra, the pyramid of the sun, the pyramid of the moon, and the Avenue of the Gods down in the city of Tahuti, which was Tehuatihuacan. So let's see if we get any calls. Okay. (916) on Super Heru Radio. Peace. 916. Okay. Mm-hmm. 347.
Peace.
Peace, more.
What's going on, sir?
How are you, brother?
Richie from New York, man.
What up, fam? How you doing?
Doing extremely well. I'm glad I could get in contact with you, man. Got some questions, man. I really want to build with you.
That's what's up. You
off,
can hit me up. You can hit me up through the email too, if you ever need to. At house@l@hotmail.com.
Right, the Hotmail, right?
Yep.
Perfect. Quick thing. I was looking into melanin a lot lately, and correct me if I'm wrong, but melanin and THC pretty much have a similar molecular structure.
Yep.
And what I found out, what was crazy with that was, what does that say about it being labeled as Delta 9? Delta being the triangle and 9 being the highest number. Like, why? Is that just a coincidence? What is that about?
Oh, nah, that's the system of numeration. It comes from the so-called Greek, what they call it Greek, which is really like Phoenician. So,
right.
The melanin that they're trying to harvest the spiritual aspect of Allah through us genetically, through those of us that have melanin stored or certain melanin traits based upon whatever we have in our blood, based upon us being descended, like I said, from this noble house, going all the way back to the creator of this universe. So a lot of people don't want to believe that that's true. But that has nothing to do with what you know is true based upon how you are treated. So these people who call themselves the persecuted, they can't be the ones persecuting and be the persecuted at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So when it says that that I'm closer to you than your jugular vein, that's evidence of melanin. Or he said his feet was as burnished brass and his eyes were as red as fire. That's all melanin. You know what I'm saying? It's like your grandfather or whatever. So we, as being the house of Bayet Eel, the Bays and the Eels, are the ones that carry the trait of humanity in us from the outset. But we were kind of cast out of our own situation because, you know, the stuff we talked about earlier. But in that, we then got mixed with a lot of other people again, which then, you know, created a lot of the disharmony in our own being. You know, this is so a lot of the conflict that we feel in ourselves is really just like the two halves of whatever was going on in both of our parents' DNA prior to what exactly the blue and red prior to what's going on between us and everything else, you know what I'm saying, in terms of living here in this fiction.
Right. Another thing, I see that there's like a trend going on, and it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of obvious, but you know how the so-called beast likes to play both sides of the teams. I see now this whole just kind of like the MST of Abe, just how it got invaded. I see this whole conscious movement where a lot of people will say things such as the number 13, and then that's as far as they'll go. Is that what it's coming to now? Like they invade the so-called conscious community, which is you know has been rising, but I see that with the whole homosexual agenda, all of that. Like is that how invading it now on Twitter and all this shit?
That's exactly what's going down. Exactly. You can use a thing. That's exactly what it is. It's a creation of different agendas to move people away from anything that can actually help them. And in our case, we actually had a government and a people here. And it was at a place called Shekomexum. And there was a people called the Lenape and who they call the Delaware and the Nanticoke and Narragansett and all of these people that were actually the ones people in what we consider the founding fathers and actually getting the colonies and stuff underway. Like all of that was us. So there's a need to get us to get away from that heritage and adopt this whole Europe is better, you know, it's older thing. But everybody from as much as anybody that reads any history of Europe will tell you that everybody in Europe was trying to leave Europe and come over here. But they didn't know how. The only people that knew how was the people that were from here. So when they say that the Moors came from North Africa and went up into Spain, North Africa means America. That don't mean Morocco. Because if it was Morocco, then that means Morocco wouldn't have had to take down their flag in 1912. And we wouldn't have to raise it up in 1913. You see what I'm saying? So it's the people. So, you know, like in New York, like coming from New York people is more like it's where you're at. You know what I'm saying? Right. Whereas L.A., he's a dope. Oh, yeah. Whereas L.A., they're more like where you from. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Then, like in Chicago, a place like that, they're more like where you going. Whereas Philly, it's like, well, this is where you at. You know what I mean? Like every hood got their own way. Moors do their own thing in their own place, but they all Moors. They just got their own way of looking at stuff. So their own because they all God, but they have not accessed the God part of them to be able to come out of the status situation to be able to unify around a centralized government. It's beautiful. Centralized government or way of life to divide and conquer. Yeah. Because these niggas, because they have, again, we have a society and a climate that has been shaped since this guy became president, which I talked about on the tape we did way back called Welcome to Obamatopia, that said that they was going to bring people in to start flipping it up, start getting people to get caught up in drama instead of what actually is working for the people, which at that time was the unity that was coming through the community. But out of everything that has happened, nothing has brought anybody any more together. It's only made people more apart or more distrusting. Yeah. So, the prophet said you're not supposed to be out there giving agitated speech and shit like that, because that only causes confusion. He said, don't show your card to these Europeans. That shit only causes confusion to them.
Right.
He's telling these niggas this in 1928. Niggas was doing the shit you see now. Niggas was doing this shit in 1928. The stupid shit. They was doing it then. When he had to make laws. Where he said, look, even after I'm dead, this nigga said, look, even after I'm dead, make sure you read this warning letter. These niggas.
The what?
Let them know. And every meeting, we read this shit, and it say the same shit that niggas is doing now. You can tell these niggas was doing it back then. So it's like, I don't even get mad. You can't even get mad. You just gotta know.
People want to still believe in time. That's what happens. One thing, which is so interesting that I haven't really gotten to really know anything about it besides from the man himself. But why can I go on whatever jail system it is and look it up and I see Malachi D. York? Who is that?
Exactly.
Who is that?
That's his double. That's the double they put in the box. That's the one that was touching the kids. That's the one. That's
right.
The real one. The real one ain't in jail.
Right. There's no way.
Mm-mm.
One more thing, because I'm not in New Amsterdam right now. I'm actually in Jamaica, and
big up to the Maroons, Jamaicans.
Yo, that's what I want to talk to you about. It's so crazy how we have this whole thing that we're in Jamaica we're brought up to know about many of the Maroons, and there were some slaves that fought some white people and that's it. And then they throw her in the $500 bill and okay, get over it. But we have this place called Maroon Town where you have the Maroons, which is obviously more, but they have pretty much almost like a sovereignty, and nobody's looking at this like why didn't the British just destroy them? They just they just couldn't do it.
No, they had a flag. They were the Moors.
Right.
They were Moors, man. They own all the mountains, the Blue Mountains of Jamaica and all that shit. Where come from? They the ones who planted all of that, because after Grenada fell, a lot of us started coming back over here, back where we was from. Because we was from North Africa, so we started coming back here and started making shit happen. All the Maroons got to do now, all they got to do now is declare that as a nationality.
Nobody's looking at that.
Declaration of Indigenous People and all of that. As Moors, when you see pictures of Maroons, them niggas was wearing red turbans, right?
Oh.
They was wearing red turbans and they was wearing like white turbans and shit. And they was dressed like Autochtons, like they had loincloths. They was all living off the land.
Yeah. They actually
that's why they
killed
philosophy over there.
Yeah. Oh man. They killed some police officer, so-called police officer, somewhere near St. Elizabeth, where the Maroon settlement is, and the police or the so-called government, they couldn't do anything but pick up the body. Yeah. Because that police officer trespassed on that land.
They under treaty with the British, man. That they in league with Charles. That's why they allowed the land Elizabeth, because they married one of they princesses off to the family.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is how it used to work. So based on that, they got autonomy. Also, they fall under protection of the Sultan, based upon them being a part of the old Moroccan Empire, as being autonomous on the land of what we call Jamaica. All you got to do is find out what the name of Jamaica was before they called it that. Then declare that that's what it is. Then you declare that that's what it is. And then them as the basic government. The same way, High Maker. Yeah. Could be. The High Maker, yep. All of the weed, all of the coffee, all of that.
Yeah.
There's the Ma and then the Pa.
And we're legalizing that, by the way. It's so funny because that's the thing that's happening in the Americas, or which I'm speaking about, North America, which is also happening in Jamaica. It kind of reminds me of this stupid little YouTube video that I saw Netter going against Moorish Brooklyn and Sabir and talking all this nonsense, and we're still claiming these colors and we're still claiming Kemet when how can it be that we came from Africa if everything was joined? We're still talking about Kemet, and that's
right.
Great, but
see, the thing is, you got to know what they mean when they say Africa. Africa in Masonic code is a code for the world. That means Earth. On the one hand,
right.
Other hand, it represented north, or what they call the farthest most north, what they call Aparika. There's a book called Ancient Atlantis. And in it talks about a people called the Fomorians who were from Africa. But at that time, the Orient was situated where Africa meant the West, or the farthest West. You see, from the old Phoenician term Apar, A-P-A-R, or Afar, A-P-H-A-R. And these Fomorians from ancient times was coming back and forth and, putting in their work and peopled ancient Iberia, which is now Ireland, through the British Isles and all that. So there was this ancient connection. So, like I said, we have this ancient international connection with these national governments based upon our government being the basis of all of their national government historically.
Right.
But we're not dealing with American history. We're dealing with the history of the United States of America. So we're dealing with We're dealing with the history that they will need us to know to not have any say in anything. You know what I'm saying? So once you understand that that's how they roll, then what you have to do is understand that they've actually created a bar association to bar any information prior to the time that you received and got everything back in order, which was in the 28th. Right. But then, the sellout thing happened, and then everybody started moving into other things, and then they started making the whole thing a question. They kind of wanted to make it absorbed in with everybody else. They wanted to mix with everything else to become like a choice, it's like a M&M, like every constant's like an M&M, so you can pull out like a Moorish M&M or a Garvey M&M or a Rasta M&M, or that's how they want it. So people who do that get involved in the whole, like I said, the abject nature of this thing, the whack part of it, or whatever was whack, or what they feel was whack about it. But a lot of that to me be a cry for help, man. Really? You don't talk about something that bad. Like I said, methinks thou dost protest too much. You don't want to destroy something so bad. Like, I don't want to destroy the devil. The devil destroys itself.
That's right, yeah.
I'm not here to destroy the United States and to cause wrath and bring hellfire on them and kill all white devils. I don't care that much about them. You understand what I'm saying? Me personally, I don't care like that. That's not, they're not my immediate problem. My immediate problem is people who look like me, you know what I'm saying, who want to treat me like an alien because, they think I look like a genie or some shit,
Yo, I'm telling you, man, like, I even have, I have some gay, lesbian, feminists wearing ankhs telling me that I'm crazy.
Yep.
That's amazing.
They've given up their whole gender to this thing.
Whole gender.
This is how deep in they into it. Sorry.
Yeah.
They done killed themselves.
It's over. Like, it's kind of like a YouTube video I saw you on. You were talking about how pretty much as a melanated person, there's no way you can walk into the sun with an umbrella. And I bucked up some girl the other day on the bus with an umbrella.
With an umbrella.
Like, why? You for what?
Stop from getting black. From not to stop being what you are. So with somebody like that, once you understand that that's what they want to be, it's not your job or my job to convince this person otherwise. Our job was done by engaging in conversation and showing the love enough to show them that they might want to look at things in a broader perspective. That's not what they want to do. Right. That's done. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whatever happens after that now really is on you. If you choose to deal with that person at that point, like some people can be with people that's not conscious. Like they'll be the conscious one and the person they would be on some other shit.
For
look, if that person eating pork, that person eating pork, you eating pork when you have sex with them. You know what I mean? Like that's just what it is. That's not.
That's right.
Let's just be real. Let's not act like that. If that person is on some whatever shit, then you on that. Or you're always combating that. So that means there's a part of you that always wants to be in a conflict situation. That's not that other person's fault. That person don't care about what you care about. And you know that. So you playing yourself. They doing what they supposed to do. They being who they are. And if you want to change that, then it's something in you. You see what I'm saying? It's this whole soul versus the spirit thing that they got us in.
Right. Tell you, man. And
like I said, man. So thank you again for calling my brother.
Yes, thank you for doing all the work, man. And I just want to say, man, like all the work that you've been doing, man, really appreciate it. And I'm glad I got in contact. And we got a lot of work to do, man. And thank you again, man. Peace, everybody out there. Peace.
Inshallah, peace, man.
Peace.
Five 6-7 in Super Heru Radio. No. That's good work. You should feel proud. Nine 914, you on Super Heru Radio?
Peace. Can you hear me?
Peace. I can hear you, brother.
Full calling post hyphen master, front and center.
Peace,
always
man.
on duty.
How you, man?
Excellent. Even when I'm going to the store, I'm on duty. When I'm in the bathroom, I'm on duty.
That's what's up, man.
There's never a point in time, because I exist now. There is no future, there's no past, it's only now. So there's never a time when I'm not on duty. I'm always carrying the mail.
Rain nor sleep. What does it say?
That's
neither
right.
Rain nor sleep.
There's a family
that keep me from my appointed rounds.
There's a family that's making money, carrying the mail, and competing with the royal post of Her Majesty in England, and they getting it in for cheap.
I'm talking about.
You know what I'm saying? Mars, where you at? You want to be stopped and frisked? You want to be stopped and frisked? You want to get a free massage and not get paid? You know what I'm saying? You want to be a postmaster knocking on doors collecting rent. Knocking on doors collecting rent. The lords of the land where you at. You know what I'm saying? They're giving land away.
That's right.
And
that's what I'm saying, Mark.
Everywhere I turn, they're giving it away. I'm looking around like, yo, I need more hands to help me collect all this and redistribute it. Yo, they getting in on the Bitcoin too. You know what I'm saying? We're supposed to be getting a piece of all of that. Western Union just pumped Western Union just pumped $79 million into Bitcoin. Peoples, where you at? I don't want to do this all by myself.
That's what I'm saying, more.
Dropping about the Maroons because I'm going back home to go see Grandpa, who's turning 90, and he's a direct descendant of Nanny. You know what I'm saying? Of Jamaica,
so you
one of the most
do
powerful.
it, dude.
I'm doing it. We set the post office. We setting up the post office right here and now before that I'm gone, and I can't die. Why? Because I can get cloned and come back through my seed and through my blood. You know what I'm saying? But we're always going to be on the money, just like Nanny and so on. But I don't know what it takes for y'all. Y'all need a meteorite to hit y'all in the head. Y'all need to be chastised in the street. What y'all need? Just tell me what y'all need and I'll call it. You know what I'm saying? You need more brimstone and fire, earth, wind and thunder. Tell me what
Kendrick Lamar said they need water. They dying of thirst. They dying of thirst.
I just realized something, though. I want to thank the United States. I want to thank the United States because the United States is the African American, the Negro, the Hispanic, and the Indians, Hitler, to chase them into order. Because if you don't have that element to chastise you, put your back up against the wall, you don't know how strong you are. I think everyone needs to be either kidnapped or play roles into kidnapped to prepare them for, what might come. Just mentally. You know what I'm saying? Do like a role play. So you know like how to act when you back against the wall. You know what I'm saying? But big up to everything that the Divine and National Movement is doing. And when I was young, I felt it in my heart. Like I know we're supposed to be rocking. I just didn't have all the information, but I always felt it in my heart. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed. I think we all did.
And the superheroes, where y'all at? Maybe y'all need a near-death experience to get reactivated. I'm not sure. I had a few myself. But, man, these cats, you know how they say in Jamaica? On a ramping. Allah on a ramping. For real. You know what I'm saying? Yo, I'm going to tell you, I got blessed. I didn't even know how much I got blessed. My little niece, her name is Bree, and she done helped three other couples have babies just by being a baby.
You see what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying? I went to my
more?
and she told me, she was like, yeah, little Bree done zapped three other couples. Now they all pregnant.
Yep.
I was like, word?
That's right.
Like, inshallah. And that was just a little
Inshallah.
baby giving her love and energy to everybody that touched her. And those couples went back and had babies themselves. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
And I was like,
that's what it's supposed to do.
Wow. I always heard about it. You know what I'm saying? But to be a part of it, to be affected by it, is like, it's, all I can say is that's like, inshallah.
Yeah, they call that spontaneous reconstitution.
Just learn something. Spontaneous reconstitution.
Spontaneous reconstitution.
Ooh,
that's exactly what that
powerful.
is. Man.
That is mad
That's
powerful.
what we doing, man. That's what we got to do, man.
To be touched by it, it's like a lightning bolt go through your whole body. You know?
Real talk. That's the lightning bolt in the tree of life in the Kabbalah.
Yeah.
Which is the melanin
like a lightning bolt go through your whole body. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's powerful. Anyway, so I just want to big up the self.
Love and light, my brother.
And
thank you
I
again.
just got back from Khalifa from California.
That's what's up.
And I got a chance to spend time with family. And it was a blessing, you know what I'm saying? And now I'm back in El Sanguine, a.k.a. New York, for those that don't know.
Indeed.
That's right. Longitude and latitude. Get it right, y'all.
That's right, Sam.
So,
get it right.
Be on the lookout. The gold coins coming soon. The stamps coming soon. And be on the lookout for your postmasters, landlords. And invest in your family, man. That's all I can say. So, inshallah, keep going hard. Keep going hard, man. I like what you're doing. Keep going hard.
Thank you, fam.
All right.
Thank you, Lord.
To you later.
Speak to you soon.
All right, peace.
Inshallah, peace. That's right. The postman only rings twice. That's what it is, you know what I mean? But the brother's definitely right. This is the time for us to, again, unify around a centralized idea. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing illegal about that. There's nothing that be construed just because other people are doing things illegal in the name. They are not you, and they are not affiliated with nothing that's real. So people could say what they want from the outside. So many people have made money off of debunking or proving the so-called Illuminati since that shit popped on the scene again. Program resurgence of that understanding of what that whole cabal was. I was programmed into the general popular psyche that was supposed to return every 75 years. So when it happened in our era, it's just we're in the modern era, so it's some whole other shit now. But that stuff has nothing to do with the truth of what's really going on. So we'll get going on. That's about it. So again, anybody wants to holler at us about what we're doing out here in Andalusia, hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com. You could also hit us up about any lectures or workshops or tarot readings, life coaching, anything like that. You hit us up, again, through houseofl@hotmail.com. Also, check out www.darkskull418.com to get the world's most dangerous comic book novel, as well as www.cookingmorewithless.com, www.sagaasan.com, as well as check me out at Twitter at Duke of Tears. That's on twitter.com. It's at Duke of Tears. And thank you guys for following us and doing the work and supporting real grassroots movements that are functioning on a literal hand-to-mouth basis, because this is the work that nobody wants to do. And it has to get done, inshallah, to have something better in the future. So instead of thinking about tomorrow today, let's think about the next 100 tomorrows tomorrow. You know what I mean? And inshallah, we can move towards something better in that. So again, I want to thank the divine prophets, thank Allah, the Father, Mother, Father God, everybody's loved ones for the support. And thank you for tuning in to Super Heru Radio.